First off, I'd like to welcome all you congressmen and women for having the time to hear a panel on corporate tax evasion in the United States. This has become a real hot button topic lately, and I know some of the chaps and I were discussing the Economist article that came out last week about corporate tax evasion in the United States. For those of you that are not in the tax subcommittee, tax evasion is when a company moves their headquarters, like if they're a United States company, moves their headquarters abroad so they can evade our taxes to, say, a tax haven, the Caribbean. But that was more in the 80s. Now we're seeing a lot of companies move to countries that have low taxes and sometimes even really lax regulations, like Ireland, for example. It's kind of like when countries try to promote tourism by investing a lot in their natural beauty. These are countries that are purposely lowering their corporate taxes to sometimes as low as 8 to 12% in order to encourage businesses to move there. And so here at home, this really affects our economy because when they move their headquarters, the U.S. government can't tax them, and that affects the lives of you and all of your constituents that vote for you. Without that tax money, you can't give them the infrastructure they need. You can't invest in public education. This is billions and billions of dollars that are just leaving the United States. And so when companies literally as basically American as Burger King are looking to move to Canada, or Seagate, which is a really important data storage company, are thinking about moving to Ireland, this issue isn't going away. So we prepared this panel today to kind of give you more understanding about this issue and kind of help see where you would stand on that. And my name is Shannon Noel, and I'm the Executive Liaison for the Council of Economic Affairs for the past 3 years. And I previously worked with the G20 on the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development think tank. And our panelists today, we have Rodrigo Paez, he's the CEO of Starbucks, so obviously a very pro-business kind of feel here. We have Jacob Solis, and he's the economics professor here at the University of Texas, and he attended Wharton Business School, and he was previously an economic advisor for Nike. So y'all know where he stands. And then panelist 3 is Diego Gonzalez right here, and he has a doctorate from the London School of Economics. And then we have Martin Martinez, who is the U.S. Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, and we're very glad he could make it here today. I know he's got a lot of work going on. And he has a PhD in economics from Princeton University, and he was also a senior revenue agent in the IRS. So very familiar with this topic we have here today. So today we'll be determining if the movement of business headquarters abroad is acceptable from the perspective of both U.S. businesses and the U.S. government. Now, I know Congress likes rules, so we have a few for our panel. We'll have 2 rounds of questions where the panelists will be able to state their views and their supporting arguments. Each individual will contain their answers to approximately a minute. If I feel like they're going over, I will gently guide the conversation on. I would like everyone to silence their phones now and hold all their questions to a brief Q&A period, which we'll have at the end of the panel. I want to thank y'all, and we appreciate your time today. All right, so the first question is, I'm going to direct this at Jacob. How do you feel this impacts the U.S. economy in a negative or positive way?
Well, hello, my name is Jacob Solis, and I am for outsourcing jobs. I believe that it gives a very positive effect on the U.S. economy. And I believe this because in a macroeconomic standpoint, outsourcing jobs always looks like a good idea. Customers and investors drive businesses. Customers want low profits while investors want customers want low prices while investors want high profits. And in order to keep that structured cost, investors sometimes have to move their company and non-critical activities to places where they can get the most value for their money. So while it may look harsh on paper compared to the American unemployment rate, ask yourself this: would you rather have a low-wage job to little or no chance of promotion, or would you rather be able to keep products at an affordability for any salary? This is why I believe that it is a positive effect, and the impact on a larger scale is more beneficial.
Now, Martin, I know you don't happen to agree with that, so I'd love to hear your opinion.
Hi, my name is Martin Martinez, and I disagree with that. I feel like it's a negative impact onto the economy. Whenever companies move over to different countries, they renounce their U.S. citizenship, so there is no coming back. It's the Joint Committee on the Taxation approximated that $20 billion are going to be lost in the next 10 years of that, if that continues going on. And it's an issue that's been going on for many years. Another thing is, the companies don't bring their money back from the foreign countries, so the money can't be taxed. So that doesn't bring any revenue to us. Approximately $1.95 trillion are held in other foreign countries, and we will never see that money because they don't want to bring it back.
No,
And if they-
we help the budget deficit that we're working on.
Yes, correct. If they were to bring it back, they would create $682.5 billion, and that would actually help out in our deficit, which is $550. So it would actually help out a lot.
All right, well, do you have anything to say, Mr. CEO of Starbucks?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of Starbucks. My name is Rodrigo Pais, and I support the outsourcing of companies to other countries. Why is that? Well, because first of all, the companies, like when they outsource, is one way of expanding. The other thing is when we go to other countries and we pay less taxes, we save more money, and with the money we save, we actually can pay more employees or can raise the wage, like the salaries of our employees. So it's actually a win situation. I don't see how that can be related to unemployment, because also when companies go to outsource to the United States, we win. The country, United States, gets more jobs available, and it's, for example, all the big motor companies have some factory there in the United States. For example, Toyota is a perfect example of this, and they create more jobs in the United States by outsourcing there.
Perfect. Diego?
My name is Diego Gonzalez, and I'm against outsourcing jobs out of the United States because it harms the economy in a negative way. For example, if you take all those works to other people in other countries, you're not giving work to American people, you're giving it to other people, and this will cause unemployment. Furthermore, these people who will work here, if the companies stay here in the United States, these people could earn wage and spend their wage in the United States, which prospers the economy. So I think that if companies stay here and people, like they raise the wages to people and incentivize people to stay here, there will be more, the economy will prosper more than taking jobs outside.
Perfect. I was actually looking at some statistics that when you buy from a local company, 38 of those dollars go right back into the local economy, but if you buy from a multinational, only 11 of those dollars you see back locally. So that's a really big deal. Now for our second question of the day, what role, if any, do you believe the United States government has in controlling their tax base, including corporations? Does anyone really want to take it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, other than being in charge of tax reform, the government doesn't really do much when it comes to outsourcing. And given the many benefits that outsourcing gives, I don't think the government should do very much. I believe that it should be able to give private firms the ability to decide what is good for their own company and whether or not outsourcing is a good strategic approach. And in some cases, companies that have outsourced have actually canceled their contracts and come back to the United States on their own. So if the U.S. government really wants to do something and really wants to help American companies come back, it can focus on eliminating unnecessary and costly regulations, providing a more efficient and better environment for investors, and providing a tax-friendly environment. But if it won't do these things, then outsourcing is a great solution, and I'm for it, because the overall, on a larger scale, overall, it looks better.
All right, Martin?
Okay, I think the government has a big role in that. Our current corporate tax rate is 35%. It's one of the greatest one in any developed country. We should lower it down so it won't be so competitive. A lot of companies are moving to different countries because of the percentage. Also, they should amend that. Currently, if companies hold either 25% of their income, their salary, or their workers here in the United States, they will be considered U.S. in their tax. Before it wasn't, so they wouldn't get taxed at all. And that's why I believe that companies shouldn't go abroad.
I know, Diego, you had some interesting views on regulations.
My name is Diego, and I think the government should place some restrictions on these companies because these companies are outsourcing jobs and giving jobs to other people in other countries, but not in the United States. And they outsourcing jobs to small countries or other countries that are interested in getting this business, but they're not giving them the working conditions. that they should. So they're just looking for cheap labor, but they're not like meeting the requirements or staying within the law in this country. So that's why I stand against companies going abroad, because I think it harms the United States.
So we have that London foreign humanist perspective. I love it. Jacob? Sorry, what do you want? Rodrigo?
The problem with this is that, for example, this company Starbucks or many others around the world, they're multinationals. We're not only United States, so, but United States is one big part of ourselves. So if they start taxing from different like countries and everything, we get the problem of double taxation, which is taxation of more than once on one income, and that actually kills our sales. And you know, that's something that really affects us around the world. So I don't think that the United States government should focus that much on multinational companies, like putting laws to limit us, and you know, focus more on the smaller companies. We also were small ones, for example, and we had to go through the same process. They say that small companies don't have that like prior same opportunities as big ones right now, but we were actually small one time, so we had to go through the same thing and then expand or outsource, and that's how we got big.
And I
And
know
that's
Martin.
that's my arguments. Base point.
And I know Martin, you said something. You were going to say something about the majority of shareholders in the American economy.
Oh, yeah. So basically, if the company goes abroad and goes to a different country, if most of the shareholders are in the US, they're going to be taxed. Normally, it wouldn't be, but they're wanting to regulate that, so if the shareholders are more like in America, then it's considered a US company, and therefore it would be taxed.
Which would solve Mr. Rodrigo's problem. All right, so I'm not here to pick a side, but I do have to agree that the U.S. International Tax Code does need to be updated. It's older than I am. Now that we have a lot of multinational companies like you were discussing, or transnational companies, those are more the rule than the exception now. And because companies have been being reincorporated into other countries since about the 80s, our tax code hasn't had a major update since then, and it's really affecting the United States economy. And so I think that there are many loopholes and modernizations we could add that would kind of update that to today in this globalized era. And so to recap for today, Rodrigo believes that if you save money on taxes, companies like Starbucks are able to redistribute that extra cash to employee benefits and product investment, and in addition, by moving abroad, try to lower that double taxation that happens when you have one product in two countries taxing it. Jacob really wonders whether it's more important to have a lower wage job or be able to afford all those key products that are such a staple to our everyday lives. But then Diego brings up an excellent point that outsourcing does affect the U.S. economy because both jobs and the money that local workers put into the economy goes abroad. And then Martin said, we kind of agree that the U.S. should update its tax law because it's incentivizing businesses to move abroad, and this is having a negative effect on our economy. So I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank y'all for your time, and I'll open it up for Q&A now.
Quick question for Rodrigo. So what does Starbucks have to do with all this?
Okay, the question was, what does Starbucks have to do with all this?
Well, Starbucks is a multinational company, and we, for right now, we're about to move a service center to Alberica from Seattle. So we are currently applying this, we're applying this outsourcing around the world, and we have actually some problems back in England with taxes. We do pay our taxes there, but we're legally there. We pay our taxes there, but they think that we don't because we pay less taxes. That's because of the outsourcing.
Anyone else? Yes?
For Jacob, can you give me an example of a company that came back to the United States on its own?
I'm sorry. The question was, can you give her an example of a company that came back to the United States on its own?
Yes. Once again, I'm Jacob, and a company that came back to the United States was AT&T. In 2009, AT&T left to India and brought 4,000 jobs with them. But the reason they had to come back is because they realized outsourcing wasn't really working for them, and it actually made their customers more frustrated with quality service and and practicability.
I'm not sure if I could add something to it.
Sure.
And that outsourcing is not just a simple thing, it's a huge risk to outsource someone.
And so you really have to have an incentive to move abroad. The US corporate tax rate is what, like 38%, 35% right now, somewhere around there? It's actually quite high. I know Ireland's somewhere around 8 or 12. Someone else have a question? Excellent. Well, we'll close the panel for today. Thank you all for coming.